starting off with my mannequin doll. This is a 24. I always like to use the 24 because when I make pre-made wigs, like ones that are just ready to ship on my website, I always make them big because the average size head is about 22 to 23 and a half maybe. So starting on my 24, I already know I have a large enough canvas, and then if I need to take it in anywhere, take the measurements up in the back or on the side, I can do that easily. It's easier for a client to put on a bigger size wig than it is for them to put on a smaller size. So I just always do it bigger. So like I said, this is where's she at? A 24. I don't laugh at my mannequins. We done been through some things. So I'm gonna just show y'all how I block it off. And I got this from Stylish Styles by T. Shout outs to her. She just starts from the beginning of the head. I think I measured this some type of way. I measured this up to some inches, you know, of the face. Okay, so that's like 9 inches of someone's face right here. And so I start right here at the top of the forehead that I would think that is. And I start from 1 and I take it all the way back down to, this is 14, 15, 1 to 15. And I just cut that line off, that's at 15. So that's from front to nape is 15 inches. And then the nape area, I go 1 to 6, just in case. I like to say, I just like this 24 inch because I can put so many measurements on it and I can just take it in as I go instead of putting it on a smaller one and trying to and measuring it small, then it might come out too small. I don't like that. I rather put it on a bigger one. So I have 6 inches of nape space right here because some people might have a larger nape. Some people might have a smaller nape to where I can go from 2 to 5, and that's what, 2.5, you know, so just something like that. And then I also go from ear to ear. So this is from 1 to 16. I normally go to like, I don't go 1 to 16. I never really do. That's a pretty big temple. I always come back to the number 1 because if I come back to the number 1, that's technically 2 because it's 1 and 2. I come to 2 and to the 15. So that's taking away 2 from 16 is 14. So that's really 14 what I normally would do. And then I go from ear to ear above the front of the head. So that's when I do frontals because I like to measure my frontals ear to ear and then cut off that frontal piece so it lines up with that person's ear, and then have tracks all right here instead of just having the frontal come all the way down. Then you gotta cut it. I don't like doing that. I like my frontals to lay here and tracks right behind it, if that makes sense. Tracks going up it, there was tracks underneath it, but before you got to the ear. So there's tracks right here. If that makes sense. I know that's confusing. What's for another video, because today we're gonna do a 4x4. 4x4. I'ma just, anytime I do a 4x4, I'ma always lay the frontal a little bit before this line, just to give it some blending room, just in case when that person puts it on, they might cut the lace a little bit too short. Just in case it starts, the lace starts to fall out, they still have a little bit of room and it's still on their forehead. Okay, now we got the measurements down, onto the wig caps. These are my favorite wig caps. I get these from my beauty supply. I buy them in bulk because I use them so much. So yeah, these are my favorite. Dream World, it's a mesh deluxe cap. Some of them come in extra large. I think I use everything from Dream World. I use these caps. I use, when I make my wigs, I use the lace nets when I'm sewing in my sew-ins, and I use Dream World's nude caps when I'm doing a frontal sew-in. So Dream World, shout out to them. I fucks with them. Sponsor me, no, I'm joking. My dome cap, and it has this, they have a tag in the back, so you know that goes in the back. Common sense makes everything easier. And I'm gonna just throw this joint on this girl. And I know that I'm gonna go to 14 because I know that a normal head always stops at 14. And that's like sitting on your neck for some people. So I'm gonna put it right. I know that in the middle of that 3, when I blocked it off, the middle of that 3 is that 14 because this is 15 down here. So I'll take this pin I'm gonna bring it all the way down here. Come back up, scoot it back a little bit because it don't need to be that much. But at the beginning, at the top, and you want to make sure that the lines are as straight as possible. That's just a pet peeve of mine. I just hate my lines in the front don't be like centered with each other. They're not gonna obviously be straight because like they don't make them straight, but you can make it as even as possible, okay? You feel me? But anyways, I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna put this right there at that one. This is gonna be right here at that one. And the trick is to put your pins in at an angle so it's easier for you to take them out. Go back down here. Make sure that these lines are straight as possible. It's a little awkward because I'm trying to get y'all to see, but yeah. And then I'm gonna go from the one right where that line is at, or on the side of that line. I'm gonna go on the side of that line. I'm gonna probably put that at that one. See how this is the line? I went right at the side of that line and put that on that one. And then on this side, I'm gonna put that on that 5 because this is 6 inches, but we're taking 2 inches in, so I'm gonna make it 4 inches in the back right here. This one is gonna go to the 5. Because like I said, those lines are straight, but they not centered. They're not centered. You wanna make sure they're straight, but they're not gonna be centered, but you wanna make sure that they're straight. Because if they're not straight, then your cap gonna be all twisted and wrinkled and crinkled. Because that's the seam. But it's not gonna be straight. And then from here, like I said, I always like to come in at the one right here. How it already lays perfectly right here. It's already laying flat and flush. I wanna come in, pull it up just a little bit. Because when I'm sewing, it is gonna come in a little bit, so I wanna give it enough room. I wanna stretch it out to give it enough room to come back in if it does come back in. And then on this side, you see how it's straight, but it has a slight curve. I'm gonna just bring it up right here, right to where that 5 is at. Bring it up just a little bit so that if it needs to come in, it'll come in. It has that room to come in. My lips actually off, forgive me, y'all. In there. I can leave that like that. This is resistance. So I don't know if you can see it. Try to get closer. This is, if I can pick that up, that's resistance. That's too much. That means that when I'm sewing onto the wig, it's gonna be wrinkled. It's gonna be wrinkled because there's too much cap right here. There's just a little bit too much, that's resistance. So when I'm sewing, I cannot sew flat because there's more space than I need. And so it's gonna buckle up. So what you do is, see how I can go like this and I can roll it up. That's a lot. It may not look like a lot, but that's a lot of extra cap that I do not need. I'm gonna bring it all forward. I find it easier to bring it forward than it is to bring it back. For one, when I bring it forward and I put my closure right here, I'm gonna cut it off. And then for two, it's smoother up here. Back here, you have to bring it down or you have to bring it in on both sides. That's doing a lot. So what I like to do is just pinch the top and bring as much forward as possible. All I did was pinch the top right here and bring as much forward as possible. Bring as much forward as possible. You're gonna continue that. Bring that forward, pinch that, and bring that forward. Pinch this right here, and bring this forward. Now, it snaps back. You see that snap back? Now, when I go like this, it's not so much coming up because now it's flat. Now it's secure. Now it's not enough. It's not too much left over. And all you gotta do is that little bit, 3 pins right here. That should be enough. No big deal. Some people like to go. Sometimes I'll go more if I have the time, or I'm feeling a little like lazy and sluggish that day. I just want to be slow. Then I'll do more pins, and then I'll do it like that. But to be honest, that's all I need. I'm gonna just take my needle and thread. I already had a thread sitting right here, probably from somebody sewing or something. So you don't need that much with a needle. Y'all excuse my nails, y'all. I was taking them off. They broke. They still ain't came off. They's from Easter. But anyways, we get in a good position for y'all. I'm gonna come right here. And this is, you see that corner right here. This is that corner where, you see that corner where that seam is folded at? That's where we're gonna start at. Just to make sure it's flat all the way through. And I'm gonna put my thread through, hook it through itself so it's secure. We're not gonna worry about that knot because 9 times out of 10, the tracks are gonna cover it and it's not gonna hurt nobody. And nobody even gonna notice it. You're gonna forget it's there by the time you're done making this wig. But we're gonna go real close together. You have to be careful when you're doing this part of the cap because that's the band, and you don't really want to sew all the way through that, because if you will, you end up tugging it. If I tug it too much back here, it's gonna pull right here, or it's gonna pull forward, it's gonna bend. We don't want to bend that, we want to keep it straight. That's what gives our wig its elasticity to fit over someone's head with this custom size. So really, I'm just taking it over the superficial layer, basically just the first layer, and I'm sewing it together. And it ain't got to be perfect, it ain't gonna be perfect, but like I said, when you sew them tracks over it, the tracks are gonna reinforce this stitch. This is just before I can lay the tracks. I know how I want my foundation to lay and to look. And you see how I'm trying to keep it as flat as possible. I'm taking a lot of the folded part, but not so much of the part at the bottom, because we don't want to stretch out this part of the cap, this band. We just want to take it over the superficial layer. You want to be careful around them pins, and we're going to do this the whole way across the front hairline. Around that pin. So now onto the closure. Like I said, I like to always come above that 1 inch mark, that first inch. And I'm gonna just put a pin right here just to keep it steady. And I like the closure to sit in between these 2 lines of the face. I think of that as maybe the 2 eyebrows on a client's head, the arch or the beginning of their eyebrow. But I do like that to be my measurement to make my closure straight. Right? Right. This one is a little bit further down than this one. So then I'm gonna come to the back. And because we know this is 4 by 4, we know it's 4 across and 4 back. Like I have that measurement right there. I like to measure this one at the 4. This one should be at the 4. Either at the 4 or right before the 4, because we did pull it up like a centimeter. But for the most part, this one is gonna be at the 4. That's just the easy trick to think about it. And then we know it's gonna come 4 inches out, but we wanna stretch it as far as we can. And the measurements is not gonna be 1 to 4 because the tape starts over here. So you just have to kind of do a little math and know that it's gonna be 4 inches. Like I said, I like to be in those lines. I actually really like to be on those lines. It's gonna bother me if I'm not. Y'all hear these birds chirping? The birds are chirping. That one gotta go there. And this one gotta go here. Right in between them lines to make that straight and flat, period. So that's a 4.5 to the 8.5, because 4.5, 8.5 is 4 inches, 4 by 4. Okay. Now that we got that straight and secure, we're just gonna get this out of the way. And I don't know if I mentioned, but I like these caps because they're easy to work with. You know, they don't give you much resistance. The lines may not be straight, but that's just something that, hey, you gotta deal with it. I'm willing to deal with that. Angel! Yo, hold on, I'll be right back. Doing it, I think that it's easier to have it already on there, so when I'm laying my tracks, I can just come all the way up here. I've tried other methods where I've done this last, but I've etched it out and then sewn it back on, but I never really get it even how I like it. Okay, so now that that is complete, it is sewn down on every side, nice and flat. Just gonna take this thread, cut it off, save this for later. Phase 2 complete. Phase 2 only took us about 10 minutes. Take those pins out just because I just don't like them in there when I'm doing that. And you still want to make sure that this is flat. Like this one, this is flat. Okay, you want to take them pins out. So you sew it tight enough, but not too tight to where it's buckling, but flat enough. You understand me? Flat. It's a chalk marker, and I got it in the craft section of Walmart. So I like this. So you just shake that bad boy up, And then you like press it down on something a couple times. Like you gotta get the juices flowing. Get the juices going. And it's wet. Like, I don't know if you see it's dripping, it's wet. You know, so I like that. Cause it's gonna make my lines stay. So just for y'all, I'm just gonna outline this because I want this to be my last track. Ooh, I think I juiced it a little bit too much. I ain't never had that happen before. I'm trying to see what that be like. I'm just joking. I'm just gonna outline where I know I want my last track to lie. So on this side. But the wetter it is, the juicier it is, the better it is. And it washes out of this hair. It's gonna wash out. So you don't really gotta worry about it messing the hair up or nothing. It's just washable. So I know for sure that's where my last track is always gonna lay up against the closure, like right on top of it. But I'm gonna take this measuring tape now, and I'm gonna start from the one right here, right where the closure is at. And I'm gonna go all the way down to the back of the nape, and that's 11 inches of space. Which I don't know. We did 1 to 14, and we did 1 to 4, so it should have been 10. But the 10 is right here. I don't know, some type of way my brain is not working right now. But anyways, on to better things. I'm gonna measure every ½ inch. I know some people like to measure every inch. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That would leave room for 10 tracks, but I'm not doubling mine. That people who do that, they double theirs. I'm not doubling mine, I'm singling mine. So I'm gonna go every ½ inch. And it's gonna seem like a lot, but it really is not. I mean, when you used to it, when you've done it. So to make sure my lines are straight, I'm gonna start 1 on that side, 1 on that side. Actually, I'm not even gonna do that. I'm gonna just do 1 on this side. And I'll make sure my hand is as straight as possible when I'm doing these ½ inches. So I did the 10, I did the 9.5. I'm gonna do the 9 because we're going up. I'm gonna do the 8.5. I'm gonna do the 8, 7.5, 7, 6.5, 6. It starts to curve and you just curve with it, but you keep it straight. 5.5. 5 is starting to go upward at an angle, and when I get to this side, I'm gonna show you how it go up at an angle. 5.5 and 4.5. This is 4. This is 3.5. This is 3. This is 2.5. This is 2. This is 1.5. And that line that I did around that closure, that's 1. Right? Did we all get that? Did we all get that? So how many lines? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 19. Like I always have 19 lines. It may seem like a lot, but trust me, it's not. It's gonna be worth it. I love this method. It's so flat. It's not bulky. You don't have so many gaps in between. It's really nice. It's full. I'm gonna just continue to do the same thing on the other side. Follow that ½ inch line just from the beginning though. I'm gonna just take this off. Oops. And then pretty much connect these lines. I want these lines to be together. Eighteen and then 19 at the top. I know it looks like it's bleeding, but you don't worry about that. I'll still be able to see fine. Work with something that you can work with. I've been working with this for a while, so I kind of know how to work with it. And now right here, I never sew right here because this is where I'm gonna put my leg tag on the inside and also my comb on the inside. I'll try to insert a clip so y'all can see that. But now these lines going up this way, I want to show you how I do this. Now, like I said, you want to make sure your hand is very steady. And you come straight across, but you come up a little bit. I want to make sure my hand is straight as possible. Because I want all these lines to fit. This is probably one of the most important steps in wig making, is making sure that these lines are straight. Just like when you're doing a sew-in. But also when you're doing a sew-in, if you were doing like a middle part or something, your lines would start to curve upwards, right? For those people who do sew-ins. I do sew-ins, that's why I reference them so much. And I think everybody wants the convenience of having a sew-in, but want to be able to take it off every night or switch up their look every other day. When you get up here, your lines start to get closer because the head is starting to round, so my lines are starting to get closer. But I want my lines to be closer, so when I pull the hair back, you really can't see any seams and it's flawless. If I was doing a Farrah Fawcett look. I still want to make sure my lines are straight, but they still are coming up. So it's the same thing. Bam. Lines are done. Now, we're ready to sew.